Welcome, dreamers. Ready to relax and unwind? Get comfy and let our soft night tales take you to magical places. Enjoy.
Have you ever heard of a place where the trees speak to each other in soft whispers? Where every leaf seems to know the secret to the perfect night's sleep? Close your eyes and imagine it for a moment, because tonight, you're about to be taken to just such a place. But the road there isn't as easy as it sounds. In a land far from ours, where magic drips from the air like dew in the morning, there was a forest unlike any other. It wasn't filled with wild creatures or overgrown plants like you might imagine. No, this forest was different. The trees stood tall and ancient, their bark glowing with soft golden light, and their branches swayed with whispers of stories long forgotten. But not everyone knew how to hear them, until one curious soul discovered that there was a way. And with it, a secret path to a sleep unlike anything they'd ever known. Meet Ira, a young woman from the nearby village of Brindale. Her village had always struggled with restless nights. People tossed and turned in their beds, battling their thoughts, their dreams, and sometimes the unknown. Ira, however, had never truly struggled with sleep. That is, until one fateful evening when a strange sickness swept through the village. It wasn't like any illness they had seen before. It was as if the very air had changed, and with it, the dreams of the villagers turned into nightmares. Ira noticed it first when her little sister, Mira, who usually slept soundly, began having trouble. Every night, Mira would wake up in a cold sweat, her eyes wide with fear. The villagers spoke of whispers they couldn't understand, strange sounds in the night, and the feeling of something watching them from the shadows. No one knew what was happening, and no one knew how to stop it. Ira's heart beat steadily, but her mind raced with uncertainty as she ventured deeper into the whispering forest. She had heard the stories, of course, about how the trees could speak, how the wind carried voices, but she never imagined it would feel so alive. The forest didn't feel empty or abandoned, it felt like it was watching her. Not in a threatening way, but with an ancient, knowing gaze that seemed to welcome her presence. As she walked, the air grew cooler, and the sounds of the village, the clatter of wood chopping, the murmur of everyday life, began to fade. Instead, she heard the soft rustle of leaves, a gentle wind that seemed to sigh with the earth itself. It was peaceful, in a way, but the stillness was strange, almost too perfect. A few steps in, Ira noticed something peculiar. The leaves, although green and fresh, shimmered with a faint golden light, like the soft glow of fireflies. At first, she thought her eyes were playing tricks on her, but then she realized that the glow wasn't coming from any visible source, it was coming from the trees themselves. The trunks of the ancient oaks were glowing faintly, casting soft pools of light on the forest floor. She reached out tentatively to touch one of the trees, its bark rough and textured beneath her fingers, but as soon as her hand made contact, a surge of warmth passed through her. The warmth wasn't just from the tree, it was from the forest itself, like the earth beneath her feet was alive, breathing, connected to her in a way she couldn't quite understand. The whispering began again, this time more distinct. Follow the path, Ira. Listen carefully, child of the village. The voice was gentle, yet commanding. It wasn't spoken out loud, it was as if the forest itself was speaking directly into her mind. She looked around, trying to find the source of the voice, but all she could see were the trees. Each one seemed to stand sentinel, watching over her. And yet, she didn't feel afraid. There was something calming about it. Something familiar, like the soft voice of a mother or an elder guiding you when you felt lost. Without thinking, Ira took another step forward, moving deeper into the forest. The path was winding, almost as if it were designed to be followed in an organic way, rather than a straight line. The trees leaned over her, their branches forming archways as if they were embracing her with open arms. The air smelled sweet, like wildflowers mixed with the fresh scent of rain on the earth. It was like she had stepped into another world, one where time didn't move in the same way and every moment felt timeless. As she continued, a strange feeling washed over her. The forest was alive, not just with trees and plants, but with the very spirit of the land itself. She had heard stories of magical places like this, places where the land held memories of everything that had come before. She had never believed them, though. But now, walking in the soft glow of the forest, she couldn't deny it. The very ground beneath her feet felt like it held the weight of ancient knowledge. At that moment, the wind picked up, carrying with it the faint sound of music. It was soft and distant, almost like the sound of a lullaby being sung in the distance. Ira paused, tilting her head as she tried to locate the source of the sound. It wasn't loud, but it felt important. It felt like the wind itself was trying to tell her something. She stepped cautiously forward, the sound of the soft, lilting melody growing louder with each step. It felt as though the forest itself was alive with song. Her heart began to beat faster, not from fear, but from excitement. She had never heard anything like this before, and she couldn't help but be drawn to it. Soon she came upon a small clearing. The trees parted just enough to reveal a delicate stream running through the center. The water sparkled in the soft moonlight, reflecting the glow of the trees above it. And there, standing at the edge of the stream, was an ancient stone bridge, its surface worn smooth by centuries of water flowing over it. Ira paused at the edge of the clearing, captivated by the sight. The bridge seemed to shimmer, not just in the moonlight but as if it was bathed in a glow that came from within. It wasn't like any stone she had ever seen. It looked soft, almost alive, pulsing with the rhythm of the forest itself. She took a step forward, feeling the ground shift beneath her feet as she approached the bridge. The wind seemed to pick up, rustling the leaves in the trees above her. For a moment, everything grew still. The music stopped, and even the gentle whispering from the trees ceased. Ira could feel the eyes of the forest on her. She was standing at a crossroads, not just in the physical world, but in her journey, her quest to save her sister and her village. The bridge seemed to beckon her, and Ira, heart pounding, took a deep breath and stepped onto the ancient stone. Her foot made contact with the surface, and immediately, the bridge responded. It felt as though the stones beneath her feet were shifting, moving like living things, bending and adjusting to her weight. As Ira moved forward, the bridge began to sway gently, like a boat on a calm river. The feeling was disorienting at first, but she quickly adjusted, finding her balance on the uneven stones. The sound of the stream below her was soothing, and she focused on it, letting the peaceful rhythm of the water help calm her racing thoughts. With each step, the bridge seemed to stretch further into the unknown. The forest around her seemed to grow darker, the shadows deeper, but the path ahead was clear, bathed in the gentle, golden glow of the bridge. "Trust the path," whispered the voice again, now clearer and stronger. "You are closer than you think." Her heart quickened. She was close. She didn't know how she knew it, but something inside her urged her forward. She kept walking, her breath steady now, each step more confident than the last. She was beginning to feel the answers she was searching for just out of reach, but right there, waiting for her to find them. As Iris stepped onto the soft, moss-covered ground of the clearing, everything around her seemed to shift. The moonlight filtering through the branches above cast a silvery glow over the landscape, turning the soft grass underfoot into a shimmering sea of green and silver. The air smelled sweet, almost like honey, and every breath Ira took filled her with a strange sense of calm. For the first time since she had entered the whispering forest, she felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. Then, as if on cue, the trees around her parted, revealing a small group of moon elves standing silently by the edge of the clearing. Ira blinked, momentarily struck by their presence. They were taller than humans, their skin the color of polished silver, glowing softly in the moonlight. Their eyes were an intense, pale blue, like the sky just before dawn, and their long hair shimmered with strands of silver and pale lavender. They wore robes of soft, flowing fabric, their designs ethereal and beautiful, woven with patterns that seemed to shimmer and change as they moved. The leader of the moon elves, an elf named Thalion, stepped forward. He was slightly taller than the others, his silver hair falling to his shoulders, and his expression serene, like he had witnessed countless sunsets and listened to the quiet whispers of the world for centuries. "Welcome, Ira," Thalion spoke, his voice deep and soothing, echoing through the quiet of the forest. "We've been waiting for you." Ira, taken aback, hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Waiting for me? How, why?" Balion's gaze softened as he smiled gently. "Because we know the darkness that haunts your village. We know what troubles your sleep and the sleep of those you love." He gestured toward the trees around them, where the soft golden glow seemed to pulse with life. "You have been guided here because the forest has recognized your heart. You are ready." Ira swallowed, her thoughts racing. She had heard stories about the moon elves, the guardians of the night, the protectors of dreams, but she had never imagined she would stand before them. She had come seeking answers for her sister, for the village, but she had not expected to find this. Balion's eyes were unwavering, and for a moment, Ira felt like he was seeing straight through her, into the very depths of her soul. He took a step forward, and the other moon elves followed his lead, creating a circle around her. "The forest speaks in ways that most cannot hear, Ira. It is alive, ancient, and full of wisdom. But even the forest cannot fight against the shadow that has taken root. That is why we called you here. You have the power to restore balance." Ira's heart raced. "I don't understand. What do you mean? What is this shadow?" Balion lowered his voice, almost as if he were sharing an ancient secret. "The shadow is not just a creature, nor is it a simple curse. It is born of fear and doubt that have taken root in the hearts of the people. It feeds on the uncertainty that lingers in their minds as they sleep. The more they fear, the stronger it becomes. It hides in their nightmares, in their dreams, and it's what has been tormenting your sister and so many others." Ira's chest tightened. "But how do we stop it?" Balion stepped closer, his eyes filled with compassion. "You must listen, Ira. You must listen not only to the forest, but to your heart. You see, the shadow cannot survive in the light of understanding. It thrives on the unknown, on the darkness of the mind. If you learn to quiet the doubts, the fears, you can weaken it." Ira closed her eyes, her breath shaky. She had always known that the world was more than what she saw with her eyes. But now, standing before the moon elves, hearing their calm voices, she realized just how deep the world's mysteries truly ran. The weight of their words pressed on her shoulders, but she didn't feel crushed. She felt something else, hope. "How do I quiet my mind?" she whispered, her voice trembling with the intensity of the moment. The moon elves began to move in a gentle, slow rhythm around her, and as they did, the very air seemed to shift. The space around Ira grew lighter, as though the oppressive weight of the shadow was being pulled away. Balion continued to speak, his voice low, almost like a chant. "By embracing the quiet. By releasing the fear. Allow the forest to guide you, Ira. The shadow will fade when you recognize the light within yourself, the light within all things." Ira opened her eyes, and suddenly, the forest around her seemed to change. The trees, though ancient, no longer seemed intimidating. They were guardians, protectors, standing watch over the land. The soft glow of their bark radiated warmth instead of coldness. The wind through the leaves wasn't eerie, it was peaceful, like a lullaby that soothed her soul. The whispers began again, this time clearer, more melodic. The voice wasn't just from the trees, it was coming from the very air around her, surrounding her with the kind of peace that she hadn't realized she'd been craving. "You are not alone," the whisper said. "You never have been." Ira stood in the center of the circle, her breath slowing as she took in the sounds, the sights, and the magic of the forest around her. The gentle hum of the trees, the sweet scent of the moss, the soft moonlight bathing the world in silver, all of it was a reminder of the beauty that existed even in the darkest places. She closed her eyes again, letting herself be filled with this peace, this quiet. As she did, she felt a sudden weight lift from her chest. The shadow, that heavy, dark presence she had felt ever since she first left the village, began to recede. It wasn't something she could see, but she could feel it, a lightness, a calm that spread through her entire body. The tightness in her chest loosened, and for the first time in weeks, she felt truly at peace. Her mind cleared. The fear, the doubt, the confusion, all of it melted away like mist in the morning sun. And with that clarity, Ira knew what she had to do. The forest around her whispered once more, this time with a note of finality, the shadow is no more. But the journey wasn't over. Ira's heart swelled with gratitude and understanding, but she knew the true test lay ahead. She would have to return to her village, return to her sister, and share what she had learned. But for the first time since she had set foot in the whispering forest, Ira no longer felt afraid. She was ready to face whatever came next. Balion stepped forward once more, his presence radiating peace. You have done it, Ira. You have seen the truth. Now, you must carry it with you. The people of your village will sleep soundly again, not because of magic alone, but because they have learned to trust in the peace that lies within them. Ira nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders, but it no longer felt burdensome. It felt like a gift. The moon elves bowed their heads in silent respect. Go now, child of the village. Let the light of the forest guide you home. With one final, lingering glance at the moon elves, Ira turned and made her way back through the forest, her heart full of peace and her mind clear. Ira spent the next few hours learning the language of the forest, discovering how to calm the restless energy that had begun to affect her village. With each passing moment, she felt lighter, more at peace. The trees spoke of balance, of harmony, and of understanding that true sleep comes only when we let go of our fears. When she finally opened her eyes, the shadow that had once loomed over her seemed to vanish, replaced by a gentle warmth that filled her heart. Returning to her village, Ira shared her newfound knowledge with the people. She taught them how to quiet their minds, how to listen to the natural rhythm of the world around them, and how to embrace the peace that the forest had shown her. From that night forward, the villagers slept soundly. Nightmares became a distant memory, and the soft whispers of the forest continued to guide them through peaceful, restful nights. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more peaceful journeys and bedtime tales. Thank you for being part of our community.